There is one last thing to which the people can resort if the government does not respect the restraints that the Constitution places on the government. Abraham Lincoln talked about our right to alter our government, or a revolutionary right to overthrow it.
Well, that was Michael Cannon of the Cato Institute at a House hearing today on whether President Obama is upholding his constitutional duty to faithfully execute the nation's laws and what the consequences are if he is not. And the testimony got fierce at times.
I agree entirely that the president cannot simply refuse to apply or enforce a law for policy reasons.
The center of gravity is shifting, and that makes it unstable. And within that system, you have the rise of an Uber presidency. There could be no greater danger for individual liberty.
If the people come to believe that the government is no longer constrained by the laws, then they will conclude that neither are they.
As James Madison warned centuries ago in Federalist Number 47, the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny.
Joining me now, Republican Congressman Bob Goodlatte. He's the chairman, you just saw there, of the Judiciary Committee, which held that hearing today. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. That's rather extraordinary to see folks from all stripes, all ideological stripes, including Jonathan Turley, who is very clearly a left-leaning lawyer, talk about an Uber president and how that there is no greater danger to individual liberty. What did we learn today?
Well, I think it's very clear that the public's attention to this problem is growing, and it's responsible for individuals like Professor Turley, who actually supports Obamacare, supports some of these other policies,
Big time.
but says the president does not have the authority to rewrite that law. And even when the Congress says, well, you know, we should extend the employer mandate, he ignores that and threatens to veto it, instead simply does it himself. It's a serious problem. People are waking up to it, and that's a good thing.
Okay, but the question is it an abdication of duty, these extensions he's granting under Obamacare and so on, you know, just issuing, or is this within his discretion? Because there's case law that these administrative type things, you know, postponement of tax collection, which he could say this is, that's all okay to do administratively and with just a stroke of a pen.
Well, it's a matter of degree. There's no question that there is a certain amount of discretion. The Constitution requires that the president take care to faithfully execute the laws. That doesn't mean completely execute, but faithfully execute means to follow the congressional intent. And when the congressional intent is not reflected in how he expected the law to work out, he doesn't have the authority to simply change it and say, I'm changing it. He needs to come back to the Congress for authority. And why he doesn't do that? Because there is a very great divide in the Congress about an issue like Obamacare,
and he needs to negotiate. Let me ask you this.
That's what the legislative branch is for, though, is to make those hard negotiations, and the lawmakers are the authority to pass laws.
There's a reason we have divided government. All right.
That's right.
What is the difference between what President Obama is doing now with all these executive orders and declarations, and President Bush and the signing statements that were so controversial?
Well, again, there are certainly circumstances when previous presidents have exceeded their authority under the law, and it's the responsibility of the Congress, and in not a partisan way, but a bipartisan way, to put a check on that. And hearings like the one we held today are a big part of that. But is
that about sunlight and no more, or is there something you can actually do about it?
It's about sunlight. It's about cutting off funds. It's about lawsuits. It's about changing the law so that members of Congress and the Congress itself can have standing to challenge abuse of authority in the courts. There are a number of steps that the Congress can and should take, but it only works well if the Congress in both parties recognize that this is a challenge to one of our great principles of our democracy, separation of powers, and they've got to join together in a bipartisan way to be effective.
We haven't seen much
and the
of that
American
lately.
people need to speak out about it too.
Mr. Chairman, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Megan.